This is Do Not Talk live backstage at the Reawaken America tour. It's the final day of it. I'm so glad to have been invited to be here, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here. Just got up stage. Mike Lindell, got to meet him, got my photo with him, and he promised he's going to come back and go on the air with me. So, all right, we'll see. And
That's a big one.
yeah, that's right. That's wonderful, though. He did a great job and explained how they're combating election fraud. I mean, he explained it perfectly because a lot of us are going, well, what are we going to do? 2024, same thing's going to happen. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed when it comes to the fraudulent elections. So how are we going to win anything? They got a plan. They've been working on some stuff, and it's quite brilliant. Speaking of quite brilliant, this is my buddy Eric Rollins. And he is a fellow conservative talk show host on the radio.
Christian conservative talk show host.
That's a very
we got to add that
distinction.
little distinction.
Very important
there.
distinction, because as I have found it, I just assumed that everybody loved Jesus the way I did. If you're a conservative, well, you must be a Christian. Nope. There's a whole lot of us that are not. But at least we're working for one common good, and that is to hopefully get us back on track with the founding fathers that made this nation great. And that's where Eric comes in. Eric is just a constitutional expert historian.
Well, I do my best on that.
You do a great job.
I truly believe that we have to change the culture. The politics, if we can change the culture, politics can happen. But, change yourself. We need to realize that we're in a kingdom. Religion isn't some individual thing. You might have your individual experience with God.
That's a good point.
But it's a kingdom. We should be looking to a higher power, getting our house in order. Really, as realizing while we have all this freedom of choice, we're kind of insignificant. But that doesn't mean that we can't play a crucial role. We're insignificant in the sense that we don't have the power. If you realize the amazing power of God, then you're kind of insignificant. But you can, once you realize that, you then have an opportunity with all this free choice to change the world. If you read the Bible, it's all about stories of flawed men and women who then, through God's grace, were able to perform essentially almost miracles.
You know what else it's about? Men stepping up and saying, Lord, there's still some good ones down here. Please don't destroy this.
Absolutely.
Please give me a chance to turn this around.
Well, but you have to be humble enough to do that. And I think that that's one of the things when you
you're
look at
right.
common
Use
culture,
me to accomplish that goal. But the point is, though, I hear my own fellow Christians say stuff that just irritates the heck out of me when they go, well, I don't want to vote against God, or I don't want to get involved. We're not supposed to be in politics. I'm like, the early apostles were involved in politics.
Absolutely.
The early apostles, by the way, also did not comply.
Well, if it's a king, if it's truly a kingdom, then your relationship with God and those set of rules set forth, wouldn't they totally be connected to what happens? You're taught biblical values. Those biblical values should go out in your community. The idea that politics and religion are the third rail is ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
How do you not talk to your family and your friends?
Right.
Because you're trying to get them to be righteous. Now, that doesn't mean we necessarily agree on quite everything, but those biblical values are pretty clear. There's not a whole lot of leeway there. How do we not step up? One of the cool things about this country and our Constitution, though, is all of those biblical values, they were infused, and those rights that we were given, they just were smart enough to go, those were given by God. We've forgotten that all of those rights were granted, not by government. And those that worship government, well, I feel sorry for your souls. And I also feel sorry for your freedom, because it's going to go away.
You said something that makes me flash back to my friend Rudy Waselli, who's running for Congress against John Garamendi, and it was about the constitutional rights. And I've said on the air several times about, the Constitution guarantees our rights, or we were given those rights by the U.S. Constitution. He goes, no, stop saying that. You're given those rights by God, for heaven's sake. Freedom being the ultimate one, and it's just guaranteed that we get to keep those rights by our U.S. Constitution.
Absolutely. For me, it's a huge deal that as I learn more about the Constitution, that all of those principles were preached from the pulpit before they were written down.
Black robe brigade, right? Black robe. What do they call them again? Not brigade.
Brigade.
Anyway, it was the pastors. That's how you disseminated information out. They're the ones who let the people know in their congregations. So here's what's going on.
Right, and they talked about the principles of freedom.
Pastors now are all like, "You can be rich. God wants you to be rich. Look at my torn jeans and my slick hair. I'm so cool.
Yeah, I don't know
Now give me money."
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
Sorry, everybody. Sorry.
kind of false prophets. If that's your motivation, and I'm not saying that I have any problem with people making money, but
No.
but when you do, then you have a responsibility to help make your community better because you've been given this gift. Well, there's the idea of tithing. There's this idea of you're supposed to help the poor. Those don't go away. Those principles should be infused not through government mandate, but through morality. Our country's so fallen. We've at least stumbled and fallen on our face. We're having trouble getting back up.
Yes, brother.
Because we've forgotten those important principles.
Yes, brother.
I lead constitutionalists for California, at least the Clovis chapter. And it's been a great journey as I learn more about it. By the way, a lot of people say, I don't have time. I don't have time for this. I don't have time to be active. I don't have time to learn about the Constitution. You know what? Heritage has free online Constitution courses that you could listen to in your car on the way to work. Matter of fact, it'd be even better if your kids were in the car when that happened. John Birch Society has a series called The Constitution is the Solution. We played all of those. I've listened to all of those more than once. The great part, though,
CSPOA.
Yeah.
Constitutional Sheriffs Peace Officers Association has that on their website too.
Absolutely. But there are opportunities in today's technology world where you say, I don't have time. You have time to listen to radio? Yeah, then you got time. It doesn't have to, especially if it's in podcast form, you can listen for 10 minutes and pick it up when you get back in the car.
And that's amazing that you have a show that is basically your main focus. And you're on how often?
I'm on once a week, 15:50 a.m. on local radio in Fresno, California. But I get
KXEX.
KXEX, best talk in town.
But to have such a specialized program as that, a lot of programmers and media, gurus would all say, yeah, that'll never work. It's not a big enough audience, not a big enough reach. You got to try and make everybody happy and please everybody.
No, you don't have to make everybody happy. You need to do what you're called to do. And I really forget about making everybody happy. That's why we're in part of the mess we're in, because we're worried about making everybody happy.
Amen.
Do the right thing.
Preach it.
Do the right thing. It's really interesting to me that, I'm kind of a little nobody. I started this, I'm 130 shows in, so 2.5 years. And my biggest show has like 16,500 people. Well, okay, I'm not making national news, but somebody thinks that what I'm saying is important. Most of my shows are more 1,000 views. But
it's got to be a little.
It starts somewhere.
That it's not taught in schools anymore.
No, it's not. But
so
there are opportunities.
An entire generation or two who have no stinking clue about the founding of our nation and how it all started, and there is no pride value. That's for sure. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. They're being taught that this country was an accident. It was created by horrible people, horrible men who were slave owners, slave drivers, and everything else.
But the founding fathers put a poison pill into that idea of slavery. It came within one vote of getting rid of slavery. They couldn't quite pull it up. They couldn't get that last vote. So what they did instead was they put in this wonderful little statement that says all men are created equal, which essentially, while we still had slavery for quite a number of years, meant that eventually we were going to fix that. By the way, it was the Republican Party and the abolitionists that fought and died for the idea that all men are created equal. Abolitionists, they have some connection to Christ, don't they? So it was the Christian, the faithful, that formed the Republican Party. It's at the prompting of the abolitionists that were willing to fight a civil war so that we could have or work towards that idea that all men are created equal. And I think that is essential. America has failed in living up to those ideals many times. I'm not saying we're a perfect country. Every country, because man is flawed, has blood on its hands and fails to live up to things. But the key here is we have a set of ideas, a set of principles that we are fighting for that can move us in a direction. That doesn't mean I see the Constitution as this living document. There are purposely difficult ways to change it, to improve it. The reason they're purposely difficult is because the foundation is good.
Yeah, and you don't want anybody to just quickly and easily come on in and start screwing around with it who just got elected by some kind of fraud, and they want everything to face towards their one world government. I mean, it really comes down to that. You do have to. There's a whole lot of hoops you have to jump through to make these kind of changes.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a divided government. And the fact that
That's on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
It was
to
one of the
slow things
most
down.
brilliant things they did.
Every time I hear somebody complain about, well, this Congress is not getting anything done, my response is, I don't care if they're on the left or on the right. Good.
Most of what they do is bad.
That's excellent. As a matter of fact, instead of making some new freaking law so you can get, and make your constituents happy and brag about it in paper, why don't you just actually go back and amend some of these old laws that are all repeating themselves? This is insane, especially California.
Repeating themselves or sometimes completely contradicting themselves.
It's insane.
We have just on the California books, we have, what was it? I cannot remember the number. It was over 10,000 laws in the last 20 years. How does our legislature have time
And it's all just
to micromanage us?
Look at me. I'm getting stuff done. Well, stop. I don't want you getting anything done anymore. Leave it alone.
Well,
Fix what's already there.
California's not working. We've got more blessings, I think, than any other state. We've got the best weather. We've got every natural resource you want.
And I wish they all could be California girls. The East Coast girls are hip, and I really dig the styles they wear. But Northern girls, go ahead. Sorry.
Nonetheless, I think we got all of these blessings here in California, and then somehow we found Lord Newsom.
Lord Newsom,
the least brilliant. He's brilliant in his ability to lie without flinching.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
And the only time he managed to clean up homelessness, I thought this was profound.
When dictator from China showed up.
Well,
why was he here, by the way? Whose idea was that? And when foreign dignitaries come in like that, they go to Washington, D.C. If you're going to go anywhere from there, you're going to be at the behest and the invitation of the president. That's how it's done.
Yep.
This idiot flew right into San Francisco, where Gavin was sitting there lapping up everything that he did and giving him a tongue bath.
Mm-hmm.
And then Biden shows up. Why are they meeting in California? Did you hear what?
Well, they're all communists. So.
You mentioned Governor Hairdo, so now you got me on a tangent. Do you hear what he recently said about climate change? Is why Xi was here, and why it was so important. And he's talking about what an existential threat. They love those words together.
To their power.
Yeah, exactly. He literally said, "California, we can't fix it ourselves. We need China."
He's right in that.
One of the most polluting countries in the world, but we need them to fix their little existential threat that they claim is so dire.
Well, the pollution is a problem. I don't buy into the global warming, but the pollution's a problem. So if you look, I saw a chart recently that basically a graph, and Western societies, meaning Europe and the US, our emissions have significantly dropped. And China's and India's are up over 200%. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, I missed that cough. Would you do it again?
I'm not sick, folks. I just got.
Well, thanks for
sinuses
coming,
running.
sitting down here and sharing. We're live. No, we'll edit this part out.
Well, whatever happens, happens. I can roll with it. It's not the first time I've made a fool of myself on air.
That's funny. I'll never forget the first time I sneezed on air. I mean, it just happened. And I was like right in mid-sentence. Boom, and it was loud.
Well, getting back to what happens in San Francisco, I get your point. Why would they come to San Francisco?
Yeah,
That's weird.
it is weird.
Something's up. But it's also quite interesting. They couldn't fix it for the voters, the citizens of San Francisco. They fixed it for a communist dictator.
Oh, the
And then-
city itself, yeah, cleaned it up. Yeah.
And then they lined the streets, not with American flags.
Communist flags.
Yep. Like, boy, we need to welcome a country that doesn't have freedom. A country that literally,
And has political prisoners.
yep,
And
where I was
religious
going.
and religious prisoners.
Yep.
With the Uyghurs.
And they're sitting in concentration camps, basically forced to work. And our current president is too weak and spineless to actually call China out on it. Oh, wait, maybe there's 10% in there. Maybe that's why he's not calling it out.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
It
It's
all,
all about the Benjamins for the Bidens.
there's no question about that.
The
It's
Bidens.
you know, for my fellow conservatives that say, oh, well, nothing's going to ever happen to Biden, nothing's ever going to happen to Hunter. Okay. So should we not talk about it? What is happening,
Great point.
what is definitely happening, though, is their political capital is slowly being destroyed. Biden's numbers are going down, which means that probably Trump's an
Lowest
enemy.
in history right now.
33%
I mean, that's
the other
new.
day.
That's new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lowest ever.
So we're destroying their political capital. That's a big deal because that means that it's going to be easier for conservatives to be elected.
You think, like I do, that they're going to cancel the election? Try and buy more time.
If they do, they're going to do it through either a national emergency trying to start World War III, or it's going to be something like COVID. I truly hope that doesn't happen. It's not off the table because keep in mind, we're dealing with a party that the end justifies the means, and they see their people, especially like Hunter, he's royalty. So because he's royalty, rules and laws don't apply. Joe's royalty. Nancy Pelosi's royalty. They talk a good game, but if you look at their actions, they don't want any accountability for them, but they want MAGA, the greatest threat that this country has ever seen, according to Jim.
Existential threat.
Yeah. Existential threat.
There's another one. Too many of them.
But Hillary wants us to go to indoctrination,
Indoctrination.
deprogramming camp.
Deprogramming camps.
Are you kidding me?
That's right out of Nazi freaking Germany. That's out of communist China. That's out of Stalin's Russia. That's out of
Pol Pot.
This is
Out of-
wicked talk. And can you imagine if somebody on the right would have said such a thing? Can you imagine the outrage and the backlash and the
Well,
clamor?
the dying media would have screamed about it. The New York Times, dying media. They're having to fire people. Washington Post, CNN. They're not dying fast enough, but it takes time to switch the culture. The rise of independent media. Thank you, Charlie, for being on here. Thank you for this opportunity. But the rise of independent media is one of the moments of hope because as people shift to listening to real voices, as people shift to hearing independent voices rather than voices that are controlled by the powers that be, they get a different perspective. They're not just fed a narrative, but they get to think outside of the box. Well, that's American. Figuring it out for yourself, finding your own path. Western society, Western culture is not taught in schools. It's not just that the Constitution isn't taught. They're not teaching the idea that the good life was created by this unique experience here. So kids instead are taught, well, you need to look at communism. You need to look at socialism. You need to look at government as the controlling factor. I don't see government as a good controlling factor. If man is flawed, then shouldn't we have the least amount of government possible?
Great point. Eric Rollins, you're awesome.
Well, I try.
Great seeing you here. And any chance I get to put you on, I'm going to do it.
I'll have to have you. I'll have to have you on my show myself.
I'd like that.
We'll have to.
I don't know. I
We
might
can do
be
a
a little.
Zoom.
I might be a little too animated for your audience, though.
They can handle it.
Okay, all right.
They can handle
I'll
it.
trust you. Where do we find you? How do we follow you?
Okay, so you can go to Rumble. That's the main place to find me. And you go to the 1550 KXEX page and you look for the show called The Constitutionalist, or you look for the bald guy. I'm the only bald guy. And I generally have something to say.
Good. All right. Pleasure, my friend.
I appreciate this time, Charlie.
I'm Charlie Simons. This is Do Not Talk. Follow us also at rumble.com/do not talk. And thank you so much for letting me be a part of your life. And I really appreciate being here at this great event with over 70 speakers. It's a 2-day event happening, the Reawaken America Tour.
God bless.